I went to medical school at UNC and then did general internal medicine residency here at UAB. And then he did a general medicine fellowship at Harvard where he also got his MPH. I came back to UAB in 2008 and was very active clinically in the hospitalist service. In 2009, became the Associate Chief of Staff and Quality of Patient Safety in 2010. And since 2010 has been the Chief Quality Officer for Patient Safety. So I'm sure we are keeping him very, very busy. But he has been gracious enough to come talk with us about social media and how it affects what we do on a day-to-day basis.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to speak. I really appreciate the invite, and I'm also glad I got a meeting canceled at 2 so I can hang out and listen to some of the other things that are being discussed. So I'm Ben Taylor, Chief Quality Officer for UAB Hospital. I'm an internist. I leave this slide up and the date for a reason, so it has multiple purposes. Number one, in October 2010, Rutgers University was in the news again. Unfortunately, Rutgers is in the news now with videos, but Rutgers was in the news then with, I believe it's Tyler Clementi was the student. So if you guys want to look this back up or Google it. So his roommate webcammed into his room, videotaped him having a relationship, webcast it to everybody, and then the whole thing is chronicled word for word, and there's even comments like, caught so-and-so making out with the dude. If you want to see it again, log on tonight at 9 o'clock. And then a few days later, the student's Facebook page was updated, and it said, jumping off the GW bridge, sorry, and he committed suicide. So, and then this has all been in the news and still being wrapped up as far as the legal aspects of it and privacy. So October 1, 2010, also, as that was in the news, the Social Network movie premiered. And I'll also leave it up because I think it's sad that that's October 2010 when I first gave this talk, and I'm kind of still giving this talk. And that no one I think we should be doing more of this, and maybe that there's not a better talk or a more updated talk. So that's my little intro to that, of why that date's important. Also, how I even became interested in this. So I guess in May of 2010, I was at a meeting and with some colleagues, and I went to a talk with basically friends that I knew. And I said, hey, this is really interesting. I really think that we are at risk at UAB, and I don't know that anyone is doing this, and kind of on the lookout for our residents, and I think we have a risk too. And I came back and said, hey, I saw this really great talk, and we really should do this and talk to our sort of leadership. And they said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Go ahead.
So that's how I ended up doing the talk a couple months later, and so that's the background there. So what's the goals for today? So the goals for me in talks like this, again, when it's sort of like outside the topic of what I do sort of every day. So for me, the goals are really to create an awareness around this topic. I originally gave this talk, and it's been targeted, I've given it a couple more times, really targeted to residents. And so it's just sort of up front. To me, it's a warning. And then it's also an opportunity to give a little bit of advice. And then also to make you think. So that's kind of what my goals are in this. All right, so we'll start. Terms of endearment, Web 2.0. And I even feel like a couple years ago this wasn't as big as, it was more important to kind of discuss terms, not as important now. But Web 2.0, so have you guys heard this term? I even think this term is sort of old at this point. So interactive information sharing. Social media, highly accessible, scalable publishing, creation, and exchange of content. Does anyone not know what social media is? I mean, we sort of know what it is, but social media is what allows the highly publishable and scalable content to say, jumping off the Geauga Bridge, sorry, and it's time dated and stamped, and you can actually locate where it was, what happened. Another example, so I'm a basketball fan, watching the March Madness, and I sat down and Charles Barkley said, hey, let me make a comment about Doug Gottlieb. and I missed that whole thing, and I was like, what is he talking about? So I was doing work, so I looked on my computer, and I Googled Doug Gottlieb, ESPN, and it's like 1 minute ago, here's the video of what Doug Gottlieb said that was really stupid, and here's, tons of people commenting on it, so in a matter of, minutes. So highly scalable media. So, disclaimer, I'm not a technophobe, nor am I a technophile. So this is kind of the first make you think point. So where are you on this scale of technophobe to technophile? And why does it matter? Or does it matter? How many people have heard this term, diffusion of innovation? I like this a lot. You put the name behind it. So Everett Rogers, a sociologist, first proposed the diffusion of innovations in 1962. So the process by which innovation is communicated through certain channels over time among the members of a social system. Pretty basic. In the 60s, you probably recognize it more like this. So for the diffusion, the bell curve of people, we can actually talk about in this room. So the innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and then the laggards. Have you already self-identified yourself and then your colleagues on this? So everyone on this group has specific characteristics. So the innovators, brave people pulling the change forward, very important in the communication. Early adopters are respectful, they're opinion leaders, they try out new things, but in a careful way. Early majority, they're careful, they accept change more quickly than the average. Late majority, skeptical, they kind of get in when everybody else is doing it. And then traditional people, laggards, this term changes a lot. There's really no good way to say it except people who care for the old ways, critical towards new ideas, and only accept it when they're forced to, or it's so mainstream that it's not even an issue anymore. So I think it's important to talk about the diffusion of innovation, because to me this slide is sort of the crux of the conflict in social media and what we deal with. So this is a slide depicting market share here and sort of this curve of diffusion of innovation. So you can sort of think of market penetrance. And so the point to take away from this is this. So by the time something is kind of late majority, kind of old news, only half of the market may even know what you're talking about. And so we kind of use market here sort of loosely, but you can kind of think of it in the context of this talk. Some people are like, why are we talking about social media? That's like so old. What's the big deal? And some people are like, oh, this is really cool to talk about social media. I mean, so we probably have that whole kind of span even within this room. But I think this is that really depicts what the conflict is, because if we're out of touch kind of with our audience, half the people think it's no big deal, and we're really freaked out by it. And so it's kind of understanding those two things. So just to beat this point home even more, I like this. So products on top, the diffusion of innovation on the bottom. Product, oof, I'm pathetic. It's never going to work. The innovators, wow, this thing is awesome. Early adopters, this is really great. Product, I'm just getting the kinks worked out. The chasm, there's a lot written about this. We're not going to talk about this. But then once you get over the chasm, early majority, I think I can. I heard Ashton Kutcher has one, is the group. I like this part. I'm king of the world. I found it at Sam's Club. That's the late majority. Then you're over the hump, the product, okay, it's smooth sailing, and now I'm going off into retirement. And then the laggards are like, what new product? What are you guys talking about? So I think this is actually a pretty nice representation of it. So when I first gave this talk, I really didn't know how it would go over. So I've tried to base the talk in evidence, and the evidence that we use. And there's, you'll see this. Some of the points that I make, I think you don't have to make. But the purpose of this slide is to say that, okay, here's the data. Everybody uses the internet. Okay. But here's the data. And this is old. It hasn't been updated. So 80% of adults are on the internet. This, and then to prove that point, I gave this talk, actually I think here, and this had just come out like the day I was giving this talk. Has anybody seen this? So this is our own people. So this is UAB. So this is Move Over Granny.
I don't hear it clicking, do you? Do you hear it clicking?
No. Every day, more and more senior citizens are jumping into the World Wide Web. In fact, research shows they are the fastest growing online group. But for seniors, learning how to surf, Google, and download photos can be a little intimidating, especially if you've never used a computer before. It doesn't have to be so frustrating. UAB sociology professor Sheila Cotton and her team of students are in the middle of a 5-year study to learn how online exposure affects seniors' quality of life.
This training opens up the world for them.
Cotton and her team spend several weeks in assisted and independent living centers training the students on computer basics and eventually how to use Facebook and watch videos on YouTube.
It's a way for older adults to keep in contact with those social network members. It allows them to communicate much easier. It allows them to see pictures that their family and friends are doing, taking and posting online. It allows them to hopefully experience less loneliness.
Because many seniors face mobility issues, Cotton says using the internet allows them to email their grandkids, exchange photos on Flickr, and visit family via Skype.
I have learned how to contact through the internet anything in the world almost. Information, contact with my family, contact with organizations. There are just so many things through the internet that we have access to now. And to be able to search for information is just beyond my belief.
They recently had a burning question and went to Google for the answer.
Class member said, yes, I'd like to know when I get up in the middle of the night if I can heat my milk in my waxed carton in the microwave. The answer is it's not safe to do that.
Although the study is still ongoing, Cotton has an idea of what the findings are.
So the other important point about diffusion of innovation and classification, it's not as important for probably your population, but in internal medicine, we have older adults, and it's not necessarily age-related. So we have people who you think would be in the category of laggards who are incredibly adept to technology, and we have young people in the room who are like, I don't even know what Facebook is. So it's not age-specific, it's personality. So what's the point of all of this? Everybody's online. Granny's online. So if everybody and their grandmother's online, what are people doing online? So this was from a survey. 94% of the activity responded they're checking their email, but this is the important point here, is they're looking up health and medical information. So if everybody and their grandmother's online and they're looking up health and medical information, what does it mean to you? So this was kind of my big take-home point for the residents and for us too. So privacy's dead. Right? So privacy's dead, privacy's dead, privacy is dead. So that's kind of to me, that's one of the big take-home points. I believe, and part of my advice is that this is also kind of the struggle that we have of that market penetration. I think kind of privacy's dead is a bad thing. The other population is like, what are we even talking about? Like, who cares? Like, everything's online, why are you so hung up about privacy? So now to flip back to sort of the world we live in, so let's talk about social media and the data, because we have to see the data. I don't want to hear just some guy talking about his opinions, so let's talk about the data. So here is the data. When I first looked at this is PubMed. So social media and entries, if you searched, this was in 1010, this was the records, and you guys probably just had a promotion or the scholarship talk, and so you know that how long it takes to get something published. So if this is published in 1010, the work's probably done 12, 18 months before. Next time gave the talk 111, goes up. Next time 112 continues to go up. You can kind of see the patterns. That's what I love here, MySpace. MySpace is just taking off. How many people have their MySpace accounts? Does anybody know what MySpace is? So 213, we revisited this with the medical students. Facebook's going up, and I just checked again this morning and did a pretty just rough graph. The numbers, the ones that have taken off. So blog continues to go way up. Facebook is going. MySpace entries kind of flattening off here. So that's our kind of the world that we live in. And we say, okay, we got to have PubMed, we got to have literature search. Here's what the literature shows. I also make the argument that this is really not that complicated, and that really all you need to know, we don't really have to do PubMed searches. All you really need to know about social media and privacy and professionalism and the world we live in, we've learned from these people. And when you guys get the common theme, shout it out. We'll get people moving after lunch. What is it? Somebody's got it. What's the common theme for all these people? Still going. Sex tapes. Yep, right. That's it.
Who said that?
Don't. And so this is the first time I gave this talk. This is the sex tapes. So this is what I call the sex tape rule. And of course, this is according to a friend and from a Wikipedia search done on a non-university owned computer, not from like personal experience. And the crazy thing is, like, this is even just old news by now. And so I think the last time we gave this, we talked about, so there was Rex Ryan was in the news. Did we have Brett Favre? So Brett Favre is not on there, but Brett Favre kind of just, we had Wiener, right? Wiener's been, so sex tape rule. So what's the sex tape rule? Take home point, 2 of 2. You guys sum up what the sex tape rule is? Read what my mind is. It's out there, it's there forever. Right. That's it. So, but doctors can't be that dumb, right? So you post something, you hit submit, it's out there, it's there forever. We're not that stupid, right? So, well, let's look to our literature. So online posting of unprofessional content by medical students in JAMA, so trusted source, not my opinion, not a Wikipedia search. So this is a survey submitted to medical schools and probably people in student affairs, academic offices. And the question, are you aware of any incidences at your school in which medical students have posted unprofessional content online? A lot of people said yes. Are you guys aware of incidences where people have posted stuff online? And then this is from 2009, so this was a while ago. So this is in JAMA, types of content, sexual content, relational content, photos of students, friendships with patients. Again, this is student requested, not patient to student. Improper affiliations with the school, profanity about specific people, specific courses. This social media talk is a bunch of crap. You know, I hate Dr. X in this course, it's worthless. A lot of intoxication and substance abuse, photographs, video depictions of illicit drugs, a lot of pretend or not, who knows, but you know, here's students looking like they're doing illicit drugs. And then patient confidentiality, blogs, clinical experiences, patient detail. Had a horrible day at work today. We coded Miss Jones for 16 hours. She should have never been admitted in the first place. I can't believe her family's doing this to her. So, yes.
So we know all that stuff, but I know you're going to take this. But the university promotes these activities with these viral videos, and here are the dean and associate deans of different aspects of UAB participating in some of these same types of unprofessional behavior. So are you going to touch on that?
Yeah, so that's a great segue. So yeah, so I want to point out one of the points here. Do your school's current professionalism policies cover student posted online content? And the takeaway from this is not really, 38%, and then most people said that they don't specifically address internet content or professionalism. So that's a good segue to what we're going to talk about. So hold that thought. And you said UAB, so I bring this point up too of how confusing we are. So what's your policy? And then who is you? And where do all our people go? So what's UAB's policy? What's the School of Medicine's policy? Internal medicine, where I'm giving this talk, what's the pediatrics policy? What's OBGYN's policy? Do you have a separate policy? Is there one? What's our hospital's policy? Make it even more confusing, more words. HSF, Highlands, Children's. We throw all these terms around. I kind of don't know. And then we say UAB. The VA. Have you guys seen the policy? Know what the policy is? Read it? Do you have one? Do we have to have a policy to keep people from doing stupid things? You kind of have to hold people, so we'll come back to that. To your question, great point. So again, we're doing this in a medical group. We like cases, so we have to have case studies. So here's the first case.
Get nice and dirty. My scrubs 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 get nice and dirty. My thought is so old, it's really. And every time I let my scrubs get dirty, my scrubs get nice and dirty. My scrubs get nice and dirty. My scrubs get nice and dirty. My first grade superhero UFC, spending too much time on anatomy. At first it was cool, but now we all agree that it started to lose its novelty. I'm chilling with Betty here, she's like, hold up. She starts to fashion out, I can't control her. I hand her a scalpel and a blood probe, and then I just marinate with the aroma. We're rolling from Cal to the Kiwi, the only man from New Zealand with a PhD. He bets me dollars to donate to something while I try to figure out what the hell that means. It starts explaining things about the thorax, but I just can't memorize any more facts. My brain's so heavy that I got a sore back. But why can't you just let a 64 pass? Rapping suck, then it made me wince. They all must hit us, I am convinced. Arteries, veins, there's no difference. It wasn't much better when we got to the written. Cause damn, embryology continues to linger. Stuff's more boring than a country singer. Gets me pissed off like I'm a Jerry Springer. Tell me, what's the myotone for my middle finger? I got my Rolex and my netters, but I get in the lab. My scrubs get nice and dirty. 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 My body's so old, it's really. And every time I let my scrubs get dirty, my scrubs get nice and dirty.
How many people have seen that? Ever? What are your thoughts? So the next slide says debrief. We got a little slow down here. So that's the first case. What are your thoughts on the first case? Why isn't this? There we go. So thoughts.
It's funny. It's humorous.
Yeah.
But and then you live in if you live in that world, you get the release. You get you understand that culture. So it's not as offensive. Right. That's right. But if it's something you're not familiar with, then it can be taken very offensively, especially in social media now. When we were in middle school, we all had those outlets, and they were gridiron party kind of thing, but they weren't
Public.
They weren't public.
Immediately.
Right, seniors too.
Yep.
It never wound up online,
Right.
So it's the same thing.
I think I made this comment when it did the medical students. I said, so Dr. Shelton and I sit down with the family and say, thank you, Miss Jones, for donating your husband's life. I know he meant a lot to you. You're making a difference to the education of our doctors. We will treat this with the utmost respect. We value your contribution. We are indebted to you. And then this. What do you think? Because it's your point too, it's context. So we have this very big discussion and then we do this. So good, bad, comments, thoughts?
What's interesting is I think it can be from one school and affect the entire country.
Yeah.
Yep. Right, so it's like, hey, do you guys treat bodies here like they treat it at where? So that's another point. Where was this? Do you guys know where this was? It's cryptic. So it's at the U of C, Jenny Farnan. And Actually, so I sat, this is a good friend and colleague, and you're talking about professionalism and scholarship. Who knew you could make a career in social media? So this is probably the only, we talked about cases in our world of medical worlds and PubMed. This is probably the only Medline indexed medical student skits that I know of. But this is it. Papers written about it. And it's exactly sort of what you brought up. So the story is, and you can read the story, but no different than anyone else. Same thing, end of the year skits, senior skits, gets posted. It's great. People love it. It's awesome. No big deal. And then a fourth-year medical student says, hey, I think this is really offensive. Brings it up to their leadership. Leadership says, oh, you're right. We didn't know about this. Takes it down. So then what happens? Right. Everyone else says, hey, you can't take it down, right? You can't take this down. This is freedom of speech. This is great, you know. So then there's a big fight of you got to put it back up. And so I think what was done well here is I think they took a proactive approach and said, hey, this is not going away. Let's address it, and let's get people together. So they got their administration and council and educators and said, what do we think about this? What do we do? So let's go back and look at it. They removed identifiers of the organization. They put the little, we have the disclaimer, we show the utmost respect for our patients, appreciate all this stuff. So they put some disclaimers in and re-released it. And they've also built a curriculum around it. I can't remember the exact name, but it's something like Professionalism in the Digital Millennium. But there's a whole curriculum built around this kind of stuff now. And your role in professionalism. This guy was kind of unique too, in that he had a production background. It's well done. It's what this guy does. He also has this whole kind of little side business about doing memory for medical school stuff based in songs. So, and then they use this as a recruiting thing. So it's like, look, this thing got 200 and some thousand hits. We have people applying to our school say, we want to come here because we saw this thing online and we love it. So that's case one. Case two.
Come in. Hey there, how are you doing? Good, how are you? Doing okay. I have some medical students that are here with me to help me out today.
Sounds good.
All right, so what brings you into the clinic?
Well, a couple of days ago, I started getting this pain from my nipple area down to my belly button. And I was wondering, came to the office seeing what you guys could do for me.
Okay, all right. Well, guys, I'm going to ask you some quick questions. So, Neil, he says he has pain starting at the nipple area. What dermatome is that?
I believe that'd be T4.
Nice. Okay. Well, then Arash, he says he has pain going down to the umbilicus. What dermatome would that be?
I believe that's T10.
All right.
Way to go, son.
Well, gentlemen, this is a pretty classic case. A patient has pain from T4 down to T10. So, what do you guys think the diagnosis is?
T-pain! Cold.
Oh snap! Get your scrubs ready, it's about to go down. Everybody in the hall hit the wooden desk and get those huge textbooks ready. We're running this, let's go. I wear a coat, I wear a coat. Everybody look at me cause I wear a white coat. I wear a coat, I wear a coat. Take a good hard look at my fly white coat. Yeah, I wear a coat. Administrator, take a look at me. Name embroidered on the left, oh, see. Walking long, one colon checking with my lube. Other schools, red shorts look like other new VP, go slightly hypho. If you a little drunk, we'll give you some lifo. I got my scrubs on and no flippy floppies. I'm saving lives while you watch craze and getting sloppy. I shadow rockstar doctors, getting pimped and stuff. The surgeons working, fixing everybody all up. This ain't no operation. This is as real as it gets. I wear a coat, now some patients, there's no need to fret. I wear a coat and I work in Parkland.
Debrief. Next slide says debrief. What do you guys think about this case, case number 2? Differences. Initial reaction.
Production quality was significantly lower.
Yeah. You guys not a professional. They're not professional. I like the tune. More offensive to who? And how? Why?
Attitude. That's that, right. That's that, yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're less offensive because they're making fun of themselves as opposed to making fun of
patient.
They're making fun of doctors as a
I don't think from that kind of music though. That music it's that musical style that is what's said. It can even though what they say may not be offensive, it's how they're saying it. It's very disrespectful. I think it's really.
I didn't mind music so much. I mean, I think that's a cultural difference. But from my standpoint, I mean, I assume that they're in training, and they clearly don't have much respect for the university if they're dancing on top of the signs or the profession and that type of thing. So I think that's kind of where I would come from.
But I think it's offensive to us, but if you think about it as an outsider, like somebody who just sees it, you say, this is a group of people making fun of their profession. And you look at the other one and you say, this is a group of people making fun of somebody who's trying to give back to their profession, or who's a patient, for lack of a better word.
What about this side of the room? What do you guys think? No different than any other. So I'll ask you this planning question. Where's it from? That's not too hard, right? My favorite line is, administrator, take a look at me. And then it's like, here's your name. I love that. That's so great. That's so great. Yeah, so it's Parkland. It's pretty easy. So kind of offensive, kind of not. What I hear is that it's wildly popular and they're very proud of it. And it's probably like a top thing that comes in and goes, oh, I've seen your video. It's awesome.
A generational thing that we've talked about so many times today is I think so many of us that trained, YouTube was not there when we trained. And I think the way students now think of YouTube is so different.
Right.
Because to me, I still watch YouTube. It's not something I do every day.
Right.
But I think for a lot of
That's a really good point. There's so much of this stuff. So this is one snapshot in time on a Wednesday afternoon in October. When was this? October 1. So this was September 29th. One day in time. And it's almost like there's so many videos you can't even pick one. It's like you can get lost going through all the medical school videos and you're trying to pick out which one's the most offensive. It's hard. So now we'll go to case 3. And we'll get to that, hopefully get to this point. So if this doesn't work, I'm not going to waste time doing it. So I'll tell you the point about this. The point I make here is I would like to say that I was really far ahead of time, but the reality was that I wasn't. So I was doing this talk on Wednesday to do it for Friday. I saw these videos. Oh, yeah, I'm going to use this one. So I go back to LinkedIn and do it on Thursday to make sure it works, and it's taken down. So this video is taken down. But I had already saved it to my desk drive. So here is that case.
This is how we do it. Welcome to medical school, bitches.
We'll just stop it right there.
When was this one done?
Were you there?
I graduated OU in
I'll tell you when it was done.
in 98, so.
You want to watch it again? You want to find out who it is? It's Adrian Maurer and the MS2s. Yeah.
I left OU in 2002 after residency, so but that's terrible.
Yeah, so what are the thoughts on case number 3? Terrible. I heard terrible. Terrible all the way around. Horrible production. Bad song. Right? Put the name right out there. OU, the name. Opening lines, horrible. It's taken down, though. Somebody got to him and said, hey, man, this is awful. You should take it down. Took it down, but we still have it. Why? Because, yeah. So I'm going to go back to what sex tape rule, right? So it's the first point. You hit, as soon as you push the button, it's gone forever, and you've lost all control of it. So 3 cases. And so I guess I gave this talk to the medical students in a group right before their skit night. And you could see there was visible uncomfortableness in the room, sort of questioning their skit night. I didn't see the skit night. Yeah. So see, take home point number 2: sex tape rule. But your point right on, we've got people participating in it, knowingly, unknowingly. So let's leave before we leave videos, any final comments or thoughts? Skit videos that are uploaded. I'll tell you, the privacy is dead came from, at the time I was at the Harvard School of Public Health, and there was a big event, and there were people who had big jobs lined up, and they had an event like this. This is my recollection of it, and the event ended, and at 10:49 or whatever, it was all uploaded to YouTube, and everybody freaked out. So that's where the whole privacy is dead. You work hard, you line up a big job, you do something like this, the whole world knows about it right afterwards. So that's one of the big points from that. So let's leave videos and talk about Facebook. What's been the Facebook experience? And so these are old slides. But the point from this is medicine, again, is late to the game. My point here is that I think daycares have dealt with Facebook, and teachers, teachers were in the news with Facebook before we are, and we are kind of late. So what about medicine? I'll give you my daycare example, and this is an example shared with permission from one of my really good friends. Their kid is in daycare. They like their teacher a lot. They friended them on Facebook, kind of watched them. They're young, party, they drink, no big deal. They go on vacation, and they're checking out their pictures while they're in Ireland or wherever, drinking, great, it's fun. And then the Sunday night post was, really sucks to be home and have to go in and take care of those crappy, snotty-nosed 3-year-olds tomorrow morning. So what? So, relationship's over. We're done, right? How do you recover from that? Is it fair? Is it not? I'll repeat one of my favorite things that I was taught over and over is that, it's not fair, right? It's not fair. I'm a teacher. I should be able to go on vacation, post my stuff. It's my personal time. It's not fair for you to fire me. My favorite quote that I've been taught over and over is, fair as a planet, and you don't live on it. So for these people, like, we're done, we're out of here. This person's not our teacher anymore, because that's my snotty-nosed 3-year-old that you're talking about, and I don't care if you meant it or not, but we're done. So.
Do you foresee a time when students applying to medical schools or residencies looking at Facebook pages is going to be a part of the process? Because you hear about jobs all the time.
I think it's already being done, and that's part of the point here too. And I've interviewed people and for big search firms, and you have there's a whole section that says so and so doesn't have any known embarrassments to disclose at this time, and we've done a Google search and we've done all this stuff to kind of back that up. So the job part and residency, I think I actually have a slide in here about that. So again, back to our literature. Have you guys have experience with daycare, Facebook, teachers, medical school? So let's go to our literature. Students and resident Facebook content. This is a great study from Florida, from a pediatrics program, I believe. And so the cool thing about this is they just took the rosters and looked up all their Facebook stuff. So you don't need IRB, you don't need a privacy waiver because it's publicly available data. And so they just said, and here's kind of the breakdown of what's available. So 322 medical students, 40 residents, looked them all up. Almost everybody has a photograph. You can find out area of residence, where they live, what their email is, phone numbers, friends. And then they looked at sort of the content. So what do you think they found in the content of the Facebook pages? Yeah, so here's the important, this is, and I say this as a disclaimer, this is published in this journal, Journal of General Internal Medicine. This is not me making this up. It's bizarre that we're reading this in our journals. So PIMP, Party of Important Male Physician, keep your hand down in lecture and shut up. Physicians looking for trophy wives in training. So this is content of their looking at their, and then I should have gone to a blacker college. So public scan of your own residents and medical students' content. Pretty interesting. 70% photographs with alcohol, 10 to 50% had excessive drinking, patient privacy violations in non-U.S. locations. This became a big deal. So this is kind of the picture of, hey, in a foreign country, and the foreign country goes, you are disrespecting the people behind us in our photograph, and we will put you in jail and cut your hands off. So the conclusion from this paper, the takeaway point, is medical students and residents may be ill-prepared for their developing professional lives. So that's the point. Do you guys agree with this point? This is an interesting study, what we think others can see. So I think this has changed a little bit, but this is from 2 years ago. But this is interviewing people. Again, the Pew Internet American Life Project has tons of research and data on this. But this is this available on the internet or not? Or are you not sure? So most people, 50% of people think they don't have a photo of themselves, things written about you, know what you belong to, what your phone number is, cell phone number. And 83% of people think there's not a video of them on the internet. So, again, our world, research-based. These are two residents who did a project. This is the availability of physician information on the internet. So again, a very good study design. They took the a random sample, 250 patients from the Massachusetts Board of Registration, just took people and typed them in and Googled them and limited it to the top 20 responses and didn't go past two pages, because no one goes past 2 pages of Google search. And then just look to see what you can see about people. So the take-home point, a large point, 30% have personal information available on them on the internet. TwitterDoctors.net, have you guys ever seen this? I'm not going to go through this because this site is dead now, or it's not as open. But of course, I took a screenshot when it was. And so these are physicians, and you can search Alabama and follow the people on Twitter. Does anybody know who Ginger Campbell is in Alabama? I don't know her, but I know everything about her. When I read this, I know she plays tennis, likes dogs. I know where she was that day, walking across the hallway, the patients that she had seen. So everybody knows Bob Centaur. So someone who's leveraged social media I think in a positive way. So another twist, again, JAMA, our world, web searching about physicians. So this is kind of the opposite perspective. This is, I believe, written by psychiatrists, but patients looking up information about you and trying to contact you electronically. So instead of us being out there, it's the outside looking in on us. So the take-homes from this, use privacy settings. That's one of the things back in the Florida example, no privacy settings, all the stuff's easy to find. Talk to your patients about how they use the internet, be mindful of your web presence. And this is where they introduced this concept of the digital footprint. If you guys ever heard this term, I think this is one of the big takeaways. So what is your digital footprint? And are you kind of conscious of your own web presence? And probably the best feedback I've heard about I was talking about evaluations and how you're a good teacher, how you do a good talk. Someone told me they were sitting in the back of this room and they were watching people delete stuff off of their, because all medical students have their laptops up, and there were people deleting as this talk was going on. So I took that. I don't know how you get that into a promotions package as an effective talk, but so take-home points: reputation management, digital footprint, and online presence. And it's to your point too of have you ever thought about what your digital footprint is? And if we have time, I'll show you some interesting points. So what's your footprint? This is your point. And so I made this point, and JR made it a point to say, look, I want you to make sure you tell all the residents that I look at all their Facebook pages if they come to do residency. We go through what they're up to. Fellowship and then job search. There was a thing here on campus about 1.5 years ago that I saw in one of the publications where somebody comes in to give a talk to a group about social media, and he said, look, I don't want to know anything about your class, just give me the roster. So this is pretty effective, right? So the guy walks in and goes, you'll never get a job, forget it, you'll get past first round but will never work in my company, you may make the second round, you got some cleanup to do, we can talk. So I think pretty effective way. So the UAB experience, and again, part of this talk, this is old, but we were very kind of proactive, not proactive because I don't think this is proactive enough, but trying to get this out. Just at the time we did this, so we had 4 cases investigated, 18 people involved, disciplinary actions ranging from warnings to termination. So very clear of people fired over this stuff. And let me see what's next. A lot of people were really upset about this, like how can you fire me over social media and what I have posted? But sometimes these are things like, can't believe I have to work tonight, and I'm paraphrasing or using an example. Maybe I should just ask you guys for example. Can't believe I got to take care of room 602 again. Still stoned from last night. My attending is such a geezer. He'll barely show up anyway. This family's horrible. My back hurts every time I have to take care of this ex blah 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 person. My nurse manager is such a blank. So everyone's like, this is unfair, how can you do this? Again, so here's the warning point. All you need to know, UAB is an at-will employer, may choose not to employ you if your behavior is not in line with our core values and expected standards. So that's sort of to me, that's the easiest sort of take-home point, which is like, you are free to post whatever you want to on your webpage, and we will choose not to employ you. And you also may get sued for breach of privacy.
There's a question though back to the YouTube kind of stuff though. We talk about these things that are something that can be offensive, but then we're trying to educate and rear a younger generation to professional, healthy models of behavior. So we tell them that we say we shouldn't do these kind of things, but yet then the university sponsors that same behavior that we're trying to not do. There are some videos that have been on YouTube that are sponsored by UAB. There's one thing that went viral, I don't remember. There's a different one. There's something where they kind of, and all of a sudden they start wiggling their head with some, like they're sitting in class doing work or something, and then the music changes and everybody's
Harlem.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
LSU, right? Les Miles.
It's done on UAB monies and all that kind of stuff, and facilities, and it's.
But I think that's kind of the challenge is they're trying to attract students. This is the way you attract them. But where's the line? I think that's where the problem is. You don't know where the line is.
Right.
It's just find the line. Same thing with medical students. There's probably some that aren't outside. Yeah, I think that's where we are. It's just kind of this crux of technological advances that occurred in the last decade. So quickly they don't know where the line is. But they want to harness it to the benefit.
Yeah, we're giving them mixed signals.
And then we can't watch it on campus anyway, because it blocks half the websites. They can do, they're like, what's going on? Look at this.
So mixed signals is a good point. I think it's an opportunity, if you go back to sort of the 2 YouTube cases that have PubMed citations, to just take it on and address it, right? So part of it's like, well, what policy? I don't know. To me, that's easy to say, really hard to do, but that's one approach. So what policy? This was at UAB. Can you find is there a children's social media policy? And can you find it easily? Some people are shaking their head. Some people are saying, no idea what you're talking about, maybe. So here's our social media policy. Employees should be aware that all content contributed on all platforms becomes immediately searchable and can be immediately shared, i.e. it immediately leaves their control forever. Also known as the sex tape rule, right? If you say, well, pursuant to section 4.4.4, or you say, come on, man, sex tape rule. People are easier. Twitter, I'm not going to do this for the sake of time, but this links out. I was looking at this again, I'm a basketball fan, but this is a UC Chattanooga person that started twittering about his coach. It was essentially like, I hate this man. And the comments are pretty great. It's like he says, and it's posted in the newspaper. I would rather run through hell with my draws on DRAWS, my draws on fire, than work for this man anymore. And this is a year and a half ago, and then now we're back to Rutgers, right? And there's a percentage of people going, I don't know what you're talking about, Rutgers. Just Google Rutgers basketball video, and you'll know.
So that brings up one question I had. So we have a patient who's chronically in the hospital now who has an active Facebook page that's dedicated to the recovery of their child. And it's been brought to our attention that they talk about the physicians and nurses and main people with their interpretation of the care, and it's not favorable. So I turn that over to media relations and say you need to be aware of this. But at what point does this become slander or libel? So if somebody took out a sign on 280 and said Dr. Hoover's a horrible physician, I'd go get a lawyer, and you can do that. So now we've got these vitals things, these other rating things, and people can say things in an unregulated fashion about the entire system. How does that play out? I mean, nobody seems to want to address that at all.
Have you guys ever read, that's a great point. I'm going to ask you guys what you think, but I'll also say, too, have you guys ever read the RateMD disclaimers? If you ever look at RateMD and read the legal part, it essentially says, sue us, we dare you. I mean, that's what it says. It's like we are a whiteboard. That's all we provide. We provide a place for people to talk about you. So try to sue us. Many people have. You won't win. So that's the one piece of it. It's actually pretty interesting. So what do you guys think about that? Now I'm going to keep us on time, and 1:30 is our stop time, correct? Or you're next up for 1:30. What do you guys think?
I was going to ask, working with off Wynn's comment, was also sometimes you find it, like, the network, it's like you can be friends with somebody that's a colleague of yours, then all of a sudden you realize that a friend of theirs, which may be somebody else that you work with, but you wouldn't have chose them as your friend, is now you're somewhere getting like comments and pictures. And a few times I've actually talked to some other colleagues in other divisions, is that you'll see some of these pictures of these chronically ill children, and sometimes there's like 1 million likes, and it's this story of this poor child, But then I was like, wait a second, that's our ICU. Like, the pictures that people are posting of our clinical care sites, I'm just like, oh my, it's very, it's something that I don't know whether or not the hospitals, and I was going to ask if UAB had a policy in terms of patient behavior and, about.
Yeah, so people struggle with that.
Because these are very, and I think about it as children, because these are parents taking pictures of 5-year-olds. But when that 5-year-old survives his chronic illness or is 20, those pictures, like, those are not things that are like, but I kind of feel like we need to guide that in some way that, again, back to like where is the line, but it kind of is really unnerving.
Yeah.
These are children that are
So I think one of the challenges that I hear in that is sometimes so there's a couple points I want to pull out of that. One is span of control. So sometimes it's like there's certain things that you can control, and there's certain stuff that you can't. And a lot of times you have to focus on what you can control. And as that span goes out, and the hard part of that is until we have kind of our own group under control, it's hard to tell other patients that you can't do this and you can't do that. And they go, well, I saw the guy working with you pick up his cell phone and take a picture of it too. So there's span of control, and then also reputation management. So how actively, like to your point, there's, if any of you guys drive home in the afternoon to hear all the advertisements for Reputation Commander, Reputation.com, clean up your webpage. Some groups actively manage and do reputation management. I'll tell you, we are such a large community that we almost don't have to because people do it for us. So I've talked to patients in my role that have been brought to my attention because people are saying, hey, look, stuff they're posting on their Facebook page is really way out of, you guys need to reach out to them. They are really upset with X, Y, and Z, or this, or the care they got. So I'm going to use that to segue to a few things. So you're right here, consent. I didn't plan that. Consent to video and audio record. Do you guys have a policy? What's the risk? This is the risk, what you just said. Risk of patients becoming digital content. And I'll just be honest with you, it's not my content world. I don't know about children. I don't know how those rules even exist about ability to consent and photos. Do you have a photo policy? You do?
Yeah.
What is it? Don't take pictures?
So you have to be consistent.
So what's interesting is when you sign it, they tell you you're using it for a specific thing. So like, we want to use a picture of your daughter for the Sleep Center brochure. Okay, fine. And then all of a sudden your daughter appears on the BPD brochure. It's nothing like a BPD baby, because she's fat, full term. And there she is on the BPD brochure. And they don't tell you that in the very front, it also says if we choose to use this for
You're
another
released.
thing, we will use it for another thing.
Becomes their property, I think.
Yeah, it becomes their property.
When you sign UAB, you come over to the state's property of that.
Yeah.
How about patient content on your residents' phones? When someone comes in and goes, hey man, I got this really awesome case you got to see, look at this, and they're flipping through and showing you stuff, does that give you pause? So this is one of the, again, you can't make it up. This is an 08. I'll read it to you. Video posted on YouTube. Philippine doctor laughing while removing an object from a patient may lead to charges against the surgeon, medical lawsuits. Unauthorized 3-minute video of a noisy operating room shows doctors and nurses laughing, giggling, and cheering. At one point, a hand appears with a cell phone camera taking a close-up picture of the surgery. As a doctor gingerly pulls out the 6-inch long canister from the male patient's rectum, someone shouts, "Baby out," amid loud cheers. What do you think about that? It's funny, right? It is funny. But that is the risk. Finish this up. We keep saying, people are like, yeah, but still I don't know about this policy. The whole point is if you see this and read this, I won't read this to you, but this basically says, because someone said, look, I don't know the policy. I didn't look at the web page. You can't really find it. It's really hard to find. This basically says, you log on to the system. You agree with these rules. We will search. We can search everything. We'll turn everything over to the use of the systems by any user. Constitutes consent to this monitoring, interception, recording, reading, copying, or capturing disclosure. So this basically says, they'll say, I say, look, man, nobody told me about this policy. I didn't know you can do it. And then we'll turn back around and say, well, you agreed to this policy 3,021 times last year, every time you log on. Discussion, 5 minutes. Takeaway points.
I don't do Facebook for this exact reason, just because the risk is not there or the temptation is not there, so I just don't do it. I'll be a laggard.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Or you're ahead of the curve, either way.
I don't think I'm important enough to tweet either.
Part of it, I think, is the point of awareness and to take away points. Privacy is dead. I will argue that I think we should be in control of a little bit of it if you want to. I am of the opinion I like a little bit of privacy. I sort of say, too, that realizing that privacy is dead, but I've even seen things posted, too, where residents' websites, and they're talking about their again, the proxy, like their wives. I read this one thing. Never take your patient to this, because I took my daughter and they said this, and my husband's working again, an overnight shift, and it said like residency work hours. Ha! Exclamation point. And so again, like span of control, and also like our house is on the market, and then here's the link to it. I live at XYZ, blah blah blah. My husband is never here, and we're going out of town. And just like, come on, people, like you guys are crazy. Sex tape rule, think before you post. Digital footprint, online presence, very important to think about. I would say a lot of people probably haven't thought about it or don't think it's important. Reputation management, awareness of warning advice, and the whole point to make you think. We didn't get into this. It's kind of, I want to get back to your point about what you can and can't control and policies. I think the most consistent elements of policies that I've seen are actively identifying yourself with. If you actively identify yourself with the institution, you abide by our rules. And that gets into reputation management. And I'm pretty blunt when I talk to residents, and I should be blunt with you guys too. The institution is bigger than you, and there's all kinds of examples of reputation management. And I know that I will lose if I do something stupid representing UAB or in a T-shirt, and it's like, some of the stuff is like, just don't be stupid. So we go back to like, here's UT Southwestern, and then you can decide where's that line. But if it's like, UAB likes to party and, big bong and smoking marijuana, that's Identifying yourself with an institution, and does that abide? That's not part of our values. That's not what we identify ourselves with. That's violation clear. Somebody's on a vacation in the background, posted third party. I'm not identifying myself at work. I'm drinking a beer. I'm with people that people recognize work here, and it's posted 3 cycles away but not even by me. I think that's different. And that's kind of like, look, I had no control over that, and I don't agree with it, and I think you should take it down, and it doesn't represent, me, but it's not. UAB likes to party. Come do keg stands with our next residency class. And that sounds kind of just really overtly like hyperbole, but sometimes it kind of just has to be like that to get the point across. Comments? Thoughts?
This whole branding thing that keeps getting pushed at us, I mean, that kind of changes the context of everything. It's not a university, now it's a brand. And I think that is where all this really is being directed.
Branding is very important. And that's the whole point of the brand is bigger than you, too, right? So I'm happy to talk about this. I want to keep on time and be respectful, and also want to hear the next talk. I am in no means an expert on this. I kind of stumbled into it because I think it's interesting and I think it's a risk. And so if anyone wants to become an expert, I'll be happy to share slides, work on stuff, connect with people that I know, or just if you have questions about stuff, I'll be happy to talk with anybody. And with that, I'll say thank you. And here's all kinds of references.